Tisha B'Av always falls in the summer. And that, of course, is camp season, Machaneh season. And I remember, whether on Tribe Camp or B'nai Akiva Machaneh over the years, it's hard to educate young people about Tisha B'Av. Because Tisha B'Av, the main, historical aspect of Tisha B'Av is the destruction of the temples by the Romans, Babylonians and the Romans in 586 BC and 70 CE. Thousands of years ago. How can we today in the 21st century relate to that? So what did we do? We used to find modern day tragedies or more modern day tragedies, such as, the pogroms, the York massacres, and of course the Holocaust, to educate about areas that are more relevant to young people. And I remember saying to the children, to the Madrichim over the years, thank God we don't have any modern tragedies that we need to mourn on Tisha B'Av. The Shoah was the last tragedy. That's what I used to say. And of course, this year, we know it's different. This year, the tragedies of the past are now mixed with the tragedies of the present. October the 7th, 2023, the day we know was the worst day in Jewish history since the Holocaust, makes Tisha B'Av this year so much more, unfortunately, meaningful. People are saying in Israel that this is the first time they can connect to Tisha B'Av because it wasn't something that people could relate to. These ancient tragedies. But now we realize that Tisha B'Av has always been about tragedies past and present. But within this tragedy, there is some inspiration that I want to share with you. Rav Rimon, who is the Nasi, the president of Mizrahi, wrote a kinah, wrote one of the morning prayers that we say tonight and tomorrow morning, which are specifically about the tragedies of the past. There are kinot about the destruction of the temple, about the York massacres, about the burning of the Talmuds, about the Holocaust, and now he's written one about October 7th. And when you read it, and it's in the Mizrahi magazine, you realize that it's painful to read, heartbreaking to read, tragic to read, but it's different. At the end, it has something different than all the other kinot. It ends with praise to God that we've come back to our land, that we've come back to the land of Israel, because so many of the kinot speak about the idea of being in exile, being without our homeland. And suddenly, since 1948, we can once again have the comfort and the chama that we're back in our land. And yes, October 7th was a tragedy, but it's happened so many times in our history. The difference this time is that we can fight back. The Jewish nation is strong. So yes, Tisha B'Av is a painful day, and this year even more painful because of what has happened to us. But to also realize that Tisha B'Av reminds us of our history, of thousands of years of persecutions, of expulsions. But now we're back. And yes, even though we're back, there are still tragedies and terror and tears. But we realize, and we have to have that perspective of where we've come to as a Jewish nation. And that's why we say that there's a tradition that the Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. Because all these tragedies make us a nation, make us realize who we are and why people want to destroy us, because we have something so special to share with the world. And therefore, my message to you this Tisha B'Av is yes, cry, yes, mourn about our past and our present, but realize deep down that there's something remarkable about our story, about our people, about our resilience, about our strength, and how we now sit on the floor this year in 2024, 5784, mourning our most recent tragedy, but realizing, as we have done for so many years, there is something unique and special about the Jewish people. And of course, this Simchat Torah, as you know, across the world with Radlet Shul, we're going to remind ourselves of that uniqueness by taking a Sefer Torah cover, by dancing around the bimah with the name of a Kaddish on it, the same resilience, the same pride, but the same remembrance of what's happened to us. That is the Jewish people. We remember, we mourn, but ultimately, please God, eventually, we celebrate and we come together. Wishing all of you a meaningful fast and please God, just good news and peace for the world.